Yeah, I have a question. Were there any stories written where the Cylons ran into the Eastern Alliance, where the Eastern Alliance and the Cylons started fighting each other?
No.
No, they were separate. The Eastern Alliance was, again, as I recall, an attempt to bring in villains that were other than these mechanical monsters.
Yeah, there was talk around the office for the longest time. We want to do space pirates. We want to do space pirates. And that's when we did the Two for Twilly, we originally had space pirates in it. And the more we talked about it, the more it was, it's not very interesting. Oh, I know what you'll like. The final episode of the series before Galactica, 1980. was an episode called The Hand of God, which was about this area of the Galactica that nobody had found before. Or it was like a canopy reaching up into the heavens. The original title of that episode was The Finger of God, because it was like a finger pointing up. The network thought it was too dirty, I swear, and we had to change it to The Hand of God.
They obviously had never seen the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, so. What else can we answer?
Will you take up the question?
Yeah, if Galactica had gone on to a second season, some of the secondary characters that you would have wanted to spotlight, and what are the things that you would have wanted to do with them? I'm talking about the characters that come on after the main title.
Personally, if you watch the evolution of the show, at least on our episodes, we really started playing heavily Cassiopeia and Starbuck. Not the fact that we knew that they liked each other, but if you notice, particularly on Take the Celestra, I think it was Take the Celestra, we run into a character that Cassiopeia knew once. Am I thinking of the right episode? Starbuck, yeah. And there's a jealousy thing, and he says, "Hey, you had your time, and she's with me now, or whatever, or she's with you, or we had our whatever it was." We would have, I think, played a little bit more with the fact, what is their relationship really? Because she was always the voice of reason. Starbuck was always had to pull him back. Would she have tired of that? Would she have gone on somewhere else, to someone else? In our original Living Legend, which we call The Last Legend, Sheba comes on board and she has eyes for Apollo, and there is definite attraction. But Starbuck doesn't see it, and Starbuck tries to put the moves on, and she doesn't want any part of it, and Apollo thinks it's hilarious because she doesn't want any part of him. So it would have been nice. Now, when Annie got brought in, I think that they wanted to tone down that relationship. Does he have a relationship? So I'm sure we would have explored something with Apollo.
Yeah, there was a plan on that one to have that relationship mature as it went along and expand, but always leaving the audience wondering, are they or aren't they? But eventually, they would have gotten together had the series continued.
In the original story of the Last Legend, she finally breaks off with Apollo because she realizes that her loyalty lies to her father, because her mother had been killed and her father had turned to her for support, and he depended on her. And so she finally has to break it off, and Apollo doesn't really understand. At the very, very end of the episode, I don't remember how the actual filmed episode ended, but in the story, Kane is heading toward Cylon Base Star alone at the controls. He's going to ram, and she comes up behind him. He had ordered everybody off the ship, and together they go into oblivion, which was a very moving ending. I think it changed somewhat for them, because she obviously was back the next week.
She jumped off.
At the last second, yeah.
I have a question. What happened in the episode with Count Ivley? What happened to the Pegasus? Was that the wreckage of the Pegasus on the planet, or did the Pegasus survive and go off into deep space, or what was that?
Okay,
I believe that's in the memory of the group.
Okay, I know where this is coming from, too.
Did you watch all these episodes last night?
let me throw a few little tidbits out. They came to us and said, we need a name for the lead character, the lead villain. He's basically the devil. And knowing how Glenn was going with these semi-religious, quasi-religious names, we tracked down, I think it's a Muslim name for Satan. It's Iblis. And we figured that the audience wouldn't necessarily go right directly to that. So that's how that particular character got its name. At the very beginning of the show, you know where they land on the planet? And it's real weird. That was shot in, yeah, but in the film stock. It was infrared.
Yeah.
And then they ran out of infrared, so when they landed the next time, it was just normal. Did you notice this? Yeah, there was no more. Okay. They go to the spaceship at the end. Now, I know a lot of fans thought, okay, it's the Pegasus and Kanan's in there. No. Here's what happened. And it was in the, if you have a copy of the script, it's in the script. They open up the door, and they look in. Sheba goes to look in, and one of the guys says, no, don't look. And there it is. It's a cloven hoof crushed under some wreckage. So it's like Satan's minions, basically, were killed in the crash. Don't ask me to explain that. But
Now enter the network again.
okay, in comes the network and says, you can't show that. You can't show that. Kids are going to get scared. Kids are going to get upset. So what they had to do was they had to take it out. And we're going, no, it's the wrong thing to do. You have to show something. You have to show something. No, we don't. So that's what's in the wreckage.
Well, and actually after they took the cloven hoof out, because believe it or not, their argument was that had religious connotations.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I guess they were afraid to offend Satan worshipers or something. Well, we went through a number of other things that they might have found in there, and as Terry said, nothing would be as good as that. So then the decision came down that, well, we just won't show them anything. And they tried to talk themselves into it by saying, but the audience loves the mystery. The part they forgot was the audience loves the mystery, but they also want it solved. So you know how it ends. And in that particular episode, you never knew what was in there. It was really a writing sin to have that happen. And we had full heads of hair when we started.
Yeah, go.
In the 3-hour premiere, there was a point where Adama and Ty alluded to old times when they were sitting in Viper cockpits having their little private conversation. And I was wondering if there was a point where you guys were considering writing a story of one of their previous adventures when they were younger, you know, one of their earlier conflicts or some adventure.
You know, if we had gone to a second season, I'm sure we would have started getting into some of the other characters like that. Absolutely. You know, why not? An episode focused on Ty, or an episode focused on Boomer, or, you know. Yeah, I'm sure we would have. Because these were our lead characters. You know? And Starbuck and Apollo, sometimes, why not have them in a secondary role in a B story and find out some more about the other people? I mean, that's when you watch other shows, you kind of want to know, well, what about this guy? What about this guy? What makes them so appealing? They're appealing, but they're in there for such a short period of time. Let's find out a little bit more. Yeah, I think we would have.
Just going back to the question about 2 questions back, what happened to the Pegasus after the Living Legend?
The Pegasus would have come back in episode 2, I'm convinced.
Yeah. In fact, we had talked about that unofficially. You know, when we get together after work and have a beer or something, it did come up. And Terry's right, that's exactly where it would have gone, although it hadn't been officially determined yet that that's what was going to happen.
Because if you notice in the episode, you don't know. They don't show it go. You know, it's what happened. Well, unless they show it, you know that it's going to be back sooner or later. And Lloyd was such a wonderful character. I mean, he had it down to a T. That it would have been a waste not to get him back and do it.
I'm surprised no one's asked any questions about Baltar.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to promote any. I'm just surprised. I thought those would be some of the first questions.
All right. Right.
Always works.
Yeah. In the original pilot or in the movie version, they have him killed, and in the original story, he's killed. But in the TV series, I mean, was there a decision midway through the production to, oh, well, we got to keep him around?
Well, in the original, the Baltar was the bad guy, and in the series, that was his evil twin. Thank you.
The magic of television.
We weren't there. Like I said, we came in at the beginning of October, so that had, they must have shot that back in July or at least.
But toward the end of the series, the end of that first season, and the only season, unfortunately, there were some indications that Baltar was going to be gone because there was, and not because of John. John's a marvelous actor, but a lot of people felt the character was so far over that it was, we're treating these other people relatively believably. We go to this villain. You really couldn't change his character a great deal at that point because it had already been set. So I can't predict what would have happened, but my feeling is, from what was discussed, that Baltar probably eventually would have been out of the picture. Maybe to bring him back at some other point, because you never lose someone like that totally, because they do have a great deal of value. And I speak about the character again. But we probably would have been playing down Baltar's role, as actually it did happen as the series progressed. Anyway,
Baltar too was an opportunist. Yeah, he's with the Cylons only because, I mean, he's the only human being with the Cylons. So I'm sure we could have worked him into another situation with another group of people because he found an opportunity that would work better. So.
Thank you for the question about Baltar.
I got a question. What Battlestar did Baltar command? You said in pilot, one of the episodes, I think the second episode, they said Baltar, the one where they're on the lost planet of the gods, where they're on the planet Kobol. What Battlestar did Baltar command? What was his Battlestar?
Okay, this is the only way I can answer that question.
We don't know.
On the first, we had written our Fire in Space episode, and Glenn had done, I can't remember if it was Fire in Space, not Fire in Space, Living Legend.
No, that came later.
Yeah, whichever one he had done right after we had written Fire in Space. We got a copy of the script, and as story editors, you go through a script and you make notes. And Glenn's a good writer. There was nothing structurally or dialogue-wise incorrect with anything that he did, but there were some technical problems. He was calling a centon a sectar or a secton. There were these it wasn't consistent with what had been in other scripts, at least the ones that we had read so far. So we went into Glenn, and we said, we read the script, it's really good, we just have a few notes. And he just looked at us. And that was the last time we ever gave Glenn any notes or any suggestions. So if there was a mistake in what ship Baltar commanded, you'll have to ask Glenn.
He'll be here this afternoon.
What else?